little buddy.
It's Wednesday, my dude.
And do you know what that means?
Ribbit?
No, it means it's time to kill an elder dragon.
Good luck with that.
No, not me. You.
What?
Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, in Monster Hunter Rise, we got an addition to the game that I absolutely love. Offensive endemic life. Creatures around the map that you can pick up and carry and then use to hurt your enemies. We also, of course, got Wyvern Riding, which is just the large monster equivalent of the same concept. Use the natural creatures that live around the map to hurt the other creatures that live around the map. Of course, the intended purpose of all this stuff on the developer's end was just fun ways to augment a hunt and make it just a touch easier for the people who go out of their way to prepare. Is a monster a bit too tough? Go grab a side monster and chunk off a bit of the main monster's health bar. Grab a toad to inflict a status and give you a knockdown, all that type of stuff. Things simply meant to make an average hunt a bit easier for those who prepare before engaging. But how far does that go? How far can you take it? How hard can you prepare, and how much health can that preparation take off of your enemy? Today we have one goal. Can we kill Kashala Deora by only using the living creatures around the map and nothing else? The short answer? Yes! Weapons are unnecessary in Sunbreak. You don't need them, and honestly they just get in the way, because really the strongest thing you can do is become an endemic life main. I don't mean strong as in speed. Obviously this method of playing is slower than just beating an elder dragon to death with your perfectly created offensive build, but that comes with danger. You have to be aware of the monster's moveset, you have to dodge their attacks, you have to heal, you have to know your own weapon, and you might cart. Through this method though, we can instead remove all the danger from the main creature and instead just treat it like a plaything. This is the Monster Hunter equivalent of playing with action figures, making them punch each other without ever getting involved yourself.
My big strong toad!
So, how does all of this come together? And what does the time look like to do it? Well, the best map for this in general is the Citadel. This map is absolutely brimming with endemic life. It has two of most things, and as such, if you go around collecting it all, you can really build up an arsenal. As well, in Sunbreak, endemic life respawns on a 10-minute timer, specifically from when you pick it up, not from when you use it. The strongest Wyvern Ride creature in the whole game is undeniably RageGaming. His lasers hit like they came from the Death Star itself, and you can easily launch off half a dozen of them in a single ride before even hitting the Punisher button. On which note, there is a new type of endemic life added in Sunbreak called the Ruby Wire Bug as well. This little guy increases the damage of a Wyvern Riding Punisher, allowing you to squeeze out even more damage from a Wyvern Ride. As such, the beginning of the hunt is simple. Run generally towards where the RageGaming is at, picking up all the damage dealing endemic life along the way. Blast Toad, Fire Beetle, Poison Toad, and of course, then make a detour to grab the Ruby Wire Bug first. Then pop back over to the RageGaming and beat him up with Silk Binds until he enters a rideable state. You may be wondering why my damage was so low when I was doing so, and that's because I'm using a high rank weapon. This isn't required, as you can do enough damage to kill a monster through a quest without this, but it just adds that tiny little bit extra because the high rank weapon in question is specifically chosen because it has the ramp up skill Master Rider. This skill increases your Wyvern Riding damage just in general, and so it's worth the slight bit of extra time to get the Wyvern Ride in the first place. On top of this, to make getting the Wyvern Ride a bit easier, we have the skill Master Mounter on our talisman. And to make getting around the map a little bit faster, we have Full Evade Extender too. As well, the final skill of any consequence here is Wirebug Whisperer, which both helps us get around faster and also lets us keep 3 Wirebugs for the Wyvern Ride itself, which simply results in more damage, letting you spam out more of your monster's attacks before the timer runs out. On a note of the timer, we also use Dongo Rider as a food option to extend Wyvern Ride timers, and there are no other Dongo that affects this in the slightest. From this point of grabbing the RageGaming, we went to just wreck Kashala with a barrage of lasers, and after launching off the Punisher, we then get to work with our pocket full of endemic life. Light him on fire, inflict him with poison, and get a blast proc with the Toad while he's down. Once he stands up, use the Marionette Spider to grab him and fling him at the wall. I actually missed this one a little bit, which costs a few hundred damage, but it doesn't matter by the end of the hunt. I will say there are some things I did during this that weren't quite perfect. It wasn't speedrun quality necessarily, and yet I still killed an Elder Dragon, so you know, keep that in mind. After this, you want to go and collect any of the endemic life on the way to and around your next monster. For me, that was Tigrex here, which let me go and get the Blast Toad at the bottom of the well. From this point, I'm not going to show every individual step that I walk to, as it starts to get a bit more spread out between the actual fun bits, but I'll try to include every instance of damage to the main monster. When I came back up from the well, Kashala had actually followed me to the Tigrex. This is ideal, as it means that Kashala himself actually triggers the Wyvern ride for me.
Oh, what a nice guy.
From this point, we use a similar tactic to what we did with RageGaming, spamming the strongest moves available and using Wirebug evades to reset the animation on repeat, getting as much damage as we can before we are forced to press the finisher button. After this, another Blastoise on the floor, and away we go to collect more friends. This time we went off for the Puppet Spider. Now in base Monster Hunter Rise, there was an interesting mechanic where you could only initiate a Wyvern ride on a monster once every 10 minutes, unless you did it through a different method. If you hit a monster with silk vines to get the Wyvern ride, you couldn't do that again for 10 minutes. But if the monster was attacked by another monster or hit by a puppet spider, you could ride it again after 5 minutes instead. In Sunbreak, this appears to have been changed, and monsters just have a flat 10-minute cooldown regardless, as you can see from these two unhelpful puppet spiders thrown at RageGaming. Instead, we use the rest of this timer to collect more and more offensive endemic life, especially as the ones that we grabbed at the start of the hunt start to refresh and respawn on the map. To make a bit more use of this time, I even used a stink mink to lure RageGaming into a zone with Kashala and get a couple of hits on him. Technically, this is another usage of endemic life to get damage, but didn't really want to stick around here too long anyways. At this point, while waiting for the timers to reset, I went off and just used some endemic life on Kashala while he was sitting around, applying more poison and fire after putting him to sleep, just for fun. Then, once more, a trip around the map collecting endemic life. And now it is time to beat up RageGaming with silk binds once again until he's willing to become my puppet once more.
You will do what I say.
After this, we return to Kashala Deora for another barrage of laser beams at almost 1,000 damage per hit, and then we initiate one of my favorite combos in the game, Sleep Toad to put him to sleep, and then Blast Toad to wake him up for 1,080 damage. Take that, you big heap of metal. Afterwards, the Tigrex disappears from the map and is replaced by Pyre Arachnakidaki, and I intended to ride this monster using Silk Binds, but Kashala was pretty mad about the Sleeping Blast Toad, so he followed and started the Wyvern ride for me. Again, a really swell guy, this dragon. As a result, we try to use the strongest moves that Pyre Arachna has available once more, and then when Kashala stands up, I try to marionette spider him into a wall, but he starts flying, so he just falls over for no damage. Once again, this is a missed bit of a few hundred damage that I could have done better. From here, another round of endemic life collecting begins, that is, until the RageGaming leaves the map and is replaced by Basil Geese. Of course, this means it's time to go get another Ruby Wirebug and then go collect Basil and use him as a weapon.
I thought we decided that that was a nuclear option.
This is another part where things get a little bit convenient, as Kashala is sitting in a zone with starburst bugs. While using the Basil Geese Wyvern ride attacks, I coat these bugs in fire element, and then we use the Punisher on the Kashala, of course. Afterwards, of course, comes another Blastoise, our main source of endemic damage, and then finally a successful marionette spider with a big result as we use it to pull Kashala into the fire-laden starburst bugs, not only adding an extra pop of damage to the hit when he connects to the wall, but also inflicting fire blight for some damage over time while we run off to collect another round of endemic life. As we're walking away, here you can see that he is blue, sub 25% health, as notified by the symbol on the minimap, which means this is going absolutely swimmingly. Here, if I had a Blastoise on standby, I could go and sleep bomb him in the nest, but none are respawning for a couple of minutes. As a result, we wait out our timers, go to collect the endemic life, and instead meet him in the zone that he chooses to run to afterwards. I did bring a Sleep Toad and attempt to set up another Sleep Blast combo, but he dodges it through the air. Unfortunately for him, this is only a brief reprieve as the Blast Toad still happens, and hurts him plenty. Followed, of course, by another Poison Toad and Fire Beetle to double up on damage over time again. From here, we use a Puppet Spider on Kashala himself. Bring him over to the Pyre Arachnakidaki, shove Kashala into a wall 3 times, and use the 4th charge to smack him into Pyre Arachnakidaki to make that monster rideable. Hop up on the spider, and, well, one attack, and job's a goodin'. That's one dead Elder Dragon killed by nothing but endemic life and Wyvern riding. How's that for a 15th weapon? All in all, this is more of a fun little experiment than anything else, playing around with the massive amount of endemic life on the new map of the Citadel. I love that it not only worked, but actually got the kill in a solid 32 minutes, especially when you consider the absolutely minimal amount of danger I was in at any time. Sure, this isn't something you can realistically rely upon every hunt, but it does show the pure power of these mechanics individually. These things that a lot of people often just avoid using or forget about. Wyvern riding is incredibly strong. Toads and beetles are also incredibly strong. You should be using them because, well, if you don't, you're missing out on an entire Kashala Deora's worth of health. Simple as that. And of course, this means if you are really struggling to kill a monster, if you're having trouble, the best thing that you can do for yourself is explore the map before engaging or between zones. Pick up all of the helpers that you can, grab Spear Birds to increase your health, the whole 9 yards. Then the rest of the hunt that follows will just be significantly easier. Remember, the most important rule of Monster Hunter is to always bring a second toad. I hope you've enjoyed this experience. I know that I have. Strange hunting is one of my favorite things to mess around with. Let us know if there are any other things that you want us to test best against monsters other than straight up hunting with weapons. Like if you like the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.